mental is mental illness is like a little storm, like a storm that you bring everywhere. Maybe like if it's little, maybe you just can ignore it. Like maybe it'll be like a little annoying, but it's not a big problem. But it's not things that you just can ignore it. It'll be like more bigger and like more grow, and like it will be flooding you and suffocate you. Like when people just make it like take it easy, like oh, it's not a big problem. But if you more like understand it, it'll be like a danger that you just let it be, like something that maybe will harm you someday. Or
the first word that comes to my mind is suffering. How horrible that sounds, but it's just like, because a lot of time people are just suffering in silence because like you're afraid, oh, they're gonna look at me weird, or they won't understand, so you just kind of keep it to yourself.
I think mental illness is something that it happens to like all of us, like especially like the times we're living in right now. Like we're very stressed and we're always like hooked up to our phones, and like yeah, we're stressed about everything. So that's what's like coming to my mind when I think about mental illness.
정신적 질환이라는 게 처음 들었을 때는 친구나 뉴스에서 많이 들었는데 이걸 듣고 생각한 이유는 제 주위의 친구들이 막 스트레스를 많이 가지고 있고 가끔씩은 저한테 얘기를 하기 때문이에요.
I feel like the younger generation, our generation in America, we're basically our own support systems, whereas in Korea they have no one. They have no adults, no friends that they can really talk to, and if they do talk to them, then it's looked down upon.
In Asia and less developed countries, there's definitely a lot of negative stigma. Like people tend to think that people who have mental illnesses are crazy or they are possessed by the devil.
정신적 질환이 부정적 오명을 가지고 있다는 건 저도 그렇게 생각한 이유가, 만약에 예를 들면 저랑 친구지만 친하지 않은 사람이 정신병원에 다닌다고 하면 그것도 그대로 좋지 않은 안 좋은 루머를 일으킬 수 있기 때문에 약간 부정적인 오명이 있다고 생각합니다.
Oh, for sure. The stigma around mental illness is like ridiculously negative. It makes you feel even worse than the actual mental illness itself. It's like, oh, people are now thinking this of me.
I cannot talk with anyone. I'll be judged. That's the thing in Asia. Like everyone judge you. Like if I have mental illness, just like you are a cray baby, or like you're not strong enough.
No, it's definitely like pushed under the rug for sure, especially with school culture. Amongst students, amongst college students, high school students, there's so much pressure to succeed and be the best, kind of, that it's like, well, fuck, you're putting so much pressure and weight on like such young people.
Because like mental illness is kind of like any other illness, like if like a physical illness, whatever. Korea is an exception when it comes to like the stigma.
I know it's not really talked about, and I know it's not taken that seriously, but it also seems like it's pretty prevalent here. But at the same time, they don't want to give a label to those symptoms. They don't want to say, I'm depressed, or I'm anxious, or I'm struggling with this or that. They just want to say, oh, life's hard sometimes, suck it up. It seems more like they have a mentality of just ignore it until it goes away, but it doesn't really go away.
I have not heard anybody talk about mental illness in Korea, so I get the feeling that it is something people don't talk about because they don't want anybody to think they're crazy. They don't want to be different. There's a huge culture of conformity. So if you're even a little bit different in any ways, you're afraid that people will judge you.
It's typical of Asian, I guess. Like you just hide by yourself. Since I come to Korea, like I like more even realize that it even worse here. Like our teachers say that a problem is a not thing that we need to talk to everyone in here. Like they even like consider like a psychiatrist is a yeah a psychiatrist is like why you need people to solve your problem. I mean like you can solve it by yourself.
네, 아까도 말했지만 정신병원에 간다던가 정신적 질환이 있다는 걸 다른 사람이 안 순간에 그거는 다른 사람에 보이기에 나쁜 생각을 가지고서 그렇게 됐다고 여기는 사람들이 많기 때문에 그거에 대해서는 남한테는 따로 말을 하지 않습니다.
I think it should be something that people are comfortable talking about. Like the way you would say, I have a cold, or my stomach's upset, or even like, I have diabetes. Like, it's an illness. There's varying degrees of severity, and it's something that's real and has symptoms and affects people on a daily basis.
These days we can get information from all around the world, like in a matter of seconds. I think if kind of like freaks people out more. They're like more nervous, more scared about things that are going around. But I know, like for a fact, that like still there's a lot of people out there that are too afraid to like seek help or do anything about it, just because it's such a stigma around it.
If you have any kind of mental issues, they just throw you in like a crazy house with people with serious problems. Oh, in Finland, it's talked about very openly. Like if somebody has some kind of mental illness, they talk about it as if like it's just normal part of life. Like I like mangoes. Oh, and also I have anxiety. It's like that.
정신적 질환은 지금도 많이 알려져 있지만 조금 더 확장시켜서 소리를 넓혀가야 된다고 생각하고 그 이유가 정신적 질환은 하나의 특정한 병인데도 불구하고 사람들의 나쁜 시에 견해가 있기 때문에 그거에 대해서는 좀 더 넓은 목소리를 이어가야 된다고 생각해요.
I think that mental illness definitely is not talked about enough. I think especially in Korea it's not. In America it's become almost the new norm to talk about mental illness and to be very open about your mental illness. But in Korea it's not at all.
But it's kind of like that term, you know, like ignorance is bliss. So if you don't know about it, then I think a lot of people would have been happier. But now we know about it, and we should perhaps do something about it to make ourselves feel better.
When I talk to my friends about my mental illness, they don't know what to say. They don't know like how to help me, or like because they've never experienced it themselves, and if they have, they haven't told me about it at all. For me personally, I didn't realize I had a mental illness until my mom decided to take me to the doctor, because my mom has depression, and so she saw the signs of it. So then I was able to go to a doctor and get the help that I needed. Mine's like 90% depression and 10% anxiety. I almost get anxiety over my depression and vice versa. It feels like you have all these strings and ropes tying around you and pulling you in different directions, and you also have a rope around your neck and over your mouth, and like you want to say something and you want to get someone's attention, but no one's listening to you. It's like you're in a room full of people and no one cares that you're being pulled in so many different directions, and it gets really overwhelming. I think my biggest regret was not bringing my antidepressants with me here, because like the coping mechanisms that I've had to use have been smoking and alcohol, which I think a lot of the older generation Americans used to cope with their mental illness before it became such a norm. If it wasn't for My suite mate, honestly, I don't think I would have made it this semester because I had so many breakdowns and depressed moments. And yeah, I can do the things that I learned in America, like exercise and surround myself with people, but that can only get you so far. I think a lot of people here think, like, they have the very old style opinions of mental health where they think it's a choice, but it's definitely not a choice. It's not something that, oh, I just want some depression with a little bit, like a sprinkle of anxiety, thank you. We don't get to choose whether we have a mental illness or not. I got like to a point where I couldn't handle it anymore and I had like a breakdown, and it just happened in class. It's happened like multiple times until I finally like sought help and realized what was going on. 2-3 months into our relationship, I kept very quiet. I tried to be happy all the time, and when I finally shared my depression, I had to explain to him what it was. I had to explain to him how I feel and what he can do to help, and he was very open about it, but in the end, my depression really affected our relationship, and that's basically why we broke up. Every other mental illness, there's something associated with it where people just think it's a choice. I think in most Asian countries it's negative. In maybe Europe and like the United States, it's more looked at as like, people just think when you say you have a mental illness in the US, people are like, well, how can I help you? What can I do to help you? How can I like make things better for you? Where in most Asian countries, from what I've heard, it's just negative. It's like, why would you tell me that you have depression? Why would you tell me that you're thinking about killing yourself? Like, I don't want to hear those things at all. I think my number one, like, the person that helps me the most is my mom, because I can tell her everything, and she has like the similar mental illness as me. And I have friends that are familiar with my style, like my wants and my needs when I am depressed, and I'm familiar with what I can do to help myself. I have my counselor, I have my therapist that I can see, which I don't have here. So honestly, Paige has been my therapist here, and my friends have been my therapist here. But it's definitely been harder because I don't have all of my resources. So I can't imagine what Korean students are going through when they don't have any resources at all. I think if you can do something to prevent, your people, your children, your grandchildren, etc., to possibly prevent them from hurting themselves or, even worse, killing themselves, like, give them the help that they need. In American universities, we have counselors on site. Like, I've been to my university counselor many, many, many of times. Back in America, I got to a point where I had my mental illness under control, where it felt like I almost didn't have a mental illness anymore. Like, I didn't feel like I was depressed all the time. I didn't feel like I had anxiety anymore. But I am scared because I do want to travel more, and I possibly do want to come to Korea again for more than a year. And so I know for me, like, I have to figure out a plan and make a plan on how I'm going to cope for a whole year without the resources that I have available to me in America, because I know I won't be able to get help here at all. Even in America, there is some sort of like keeping face. Like, for the longest time, I've never told an employer that I have depression. I probably never will. I just won't go out to random strangers and be like, oh yeah, I'm depressed. I have depression. I have anxiety. And I'm scared for what the future has for me with my relationship and my future relationships, because I've already gone through one relationship where depression really destroyed every part of it. And so knowing that I'm going to have to live with this mental illness for the rest of my life honestly makes me really scared. But I know, like, if I find the right person, that I'll be okay. When you like surround yourself with the right support system, you have the right resources, that like anything's possible. Like, you can live your life normally, you can live life day to day and find the happiness in the little things, and definitely and have a full, successful and meaningful life.